Welcome to the Channel Chat podcast. Hello, I'm Marc Sumner, host of the Channel Chat podcast show, and today I have Matt Parker, CEO of Babble, in the virtual studio. How are we doing, Matt?
Not bad.
Yeah, all good. Now, Matt, obviously I know we've spoken before, but I was hoping that you could introduce your company to the listeners because they maybe not know about Babble. So what do Babble do and what's your role there?
So thank you, Mark. So I'm the chief exec at Babble. So I guess my role is all of the things that chief executives do in normal and difficult times. In terms of the business, we are I guess the business originated from a comms reseller perspective, value-added reseller. Everything we sell is cloud-based, cloud-related, and we do three things as a business. We help organisations spend less money on their comms and their communications, their collaboration tools, and operate more efficiently. We help organisations have more effective and more engaging and more profitable conversations with their customer through our Babble Contact business. And Babble Cyber is our secure everything business. How do you make sure that organizations have resilience, and how do you make sure, and the last 12 months has been super interesting in a Chinese proverb perspective about how people think about running their businesses. So Babble Comms about spending less money, Babble Contact about making more money through better conversations with your customers, and Babble Cyber is about securing everything in your business and making sure you can operate every day the way you want to operate.
And those services that you offer to your customers, has that drastically changed over the last sort of 12 months? We're exactly 12 months into the pandemic now. So from now backwards to that last 12 months, have your services adapted at all?
So what we do as a business hasn't changed. What's happened is that we're doing an awful lot more of it, and we're having to do things more quickly and on a grander scale for people. I think that I think when we spoke initially, I talked a bit about this, that if I think about how I communicated with people and how I went about my job 12 months ago and how much that's changed in the last 12 months and how lots of that will continue as time goes on, that people are becoming more and more reliant on cloud-based tools to communicate and collaborate and do their jobs and expect to be able to do things I want to be able to work from anywhere, and that's not, unless you're in the right place at the start in terms of the tech that you're working with, that's not something you can just, it's not a case of getting on a bus going somewhere else. It's all right. No matter how many times I turn this off, it comes back on. It doesn't matter how many, it doesn't matter how, getting on that bus, going and working from somewhere else, unless you've got the tools in place. So I think there's been a real shift towards people using, cloud-based, video-based collaboration tools, communication with their customers remotely. There's a lot more of that going on. I also think people's expectations are higher. So it's not good enough if it works most of the time. And it's not good enough if it works on that machine, but not that machine. It has to work on everything. So as a business, what we've seen is an increase in demand, an increase in awareness, and an increase in engagement from customers. I remember talking to a friend of mine 3 or 4 years ago who runs an IT support business. And we do some bits and pieces with him. And him saying, look, none of my customers ever phone me up and tell me I'm doing a great job. They only ever phone me and tell me if we've got it wrong. You know what? You've done a fantastic job of our IT support. I think that's changed in the last 12 months. I think people are much more appreciative of stuff that allows them to do the day job. We're all used to going to the office and being able to sit at a desk and work. But actually what we weren't used to, you'd try and work from home and you didn't have all the tools that you needed, and stuff only worked some of the time, and it was fairly painful. I saw a friend of mine, an ex-colleague of mine actually, who's based in the US, complaining about their collaboration tool that they were using at the weekend because it didn't do what they wanted it to do all the time they wanted it to. It's fine when we're in the office, but when we're out, it's a bit clunky and it's a bit difficult, and I have to log into this and I have to log into that. And I think the level of engagement that we've got and the awareness in our clients of Babble and what Babble does for the business, I think has changed fundamentally in the last 12 months.
Yeah. What were your sort of work from home policy? Well, what has it been for the last 12 months, your work from home policy, and what do you think it will look like in the coming 12 months?
So can I add one more question to that? Because this is the bit that's really interesting for me, is what was our work from home policy before this?
Yeah.
So I work from home. I've never worked from home. So I'm older than you. I've been around for a while, and I've never worked from home. And the reason I've never worked from home is because I can't work from home, because I don't work from home. When I'm at home, I don't work. There's always something more interesting than going to my office. So on the basis that I couldn't work from home, I assumed nobody else could work from home. I assumed everybody else behaved the same way as I did. So confession time here. So I assumed if you were working from home, you were working from home. Yeah. I have friends of mine who work from home, and I'll phone them up. What are you doing? Oh, I'm walking the dog. I'm dropping the kids off at school. I'm in Waitrose. I was like, well, are you not working? I'm working from home, Matt. So we were properly difficult about people. The royal I was properly difficult about people working from home, because on the basis if I can't do it, nobody else can do it. And it wasn't a case of me being miserable. It wasn't a conscious decision to do that. It's just what I did, and I've always done it. So if I don't know where you are and I don't know what you're doing, I'm assuming you're skiving.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you, Matt. I was pretty similar to that. If I couldn't see them, it's like, well, you're just going out in the sun, going down the pub or doing something, playing golf.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So about 2 weeks before lockdown, I went to a dinner in the Midlands that was organised by a private equity by Pep Talks. So Marble Hill's private equity networking thing, which is a fantastic forum to be involved in, and it's chief executives of private equity companies having dinner with one person telling their story and everybody chatting, and they're really interesting. And there was a guy there who runs one of the biggest bingo companies in the UK who said, we've had a really interesting day. We did a rehearsal for lockdown today. So we told everybody they couldn't come into the office, we did all of this, and it's been quite stressful, but it's gone okay. So on the basis that, I'm definitely not an inventor, and stealing somebody else's ideas is always a lot less hard work than coming up with your own ones. I drove home from Birmingham that night, spoke to my CTO and said, right, Andy, we're going to do this. We're going to do a rehearsal. We're going to work out whether it's all going to be okay. So the 2 Tuesdays before Boris told us we all had to go home, I sent a note out on Tuesday night and told all the staff, the offices, nobody could get into the office the next day. So no prep, no warning, because the theory is, because of what we do and what our business is, you should be able to work from anywhere. What we sell, what we deliver to our customers, and the things that we help organizations with should enable you to do this. So nobody went to any of our offices on that Wednesday, and nobody noticed. None of our customers noticed. We didn't tell our investors. We didn't tell anybody, and nobody noticed. And suddenly we thought, right, we're going to be okay. And did we think we were going to get locked down at that point? Memory is a funny thing. You convince yourself what you were thinking at the time is what comes to fruition. I'm not convinced when we did that rehearsal we thought that we were doing it. And I thought I was really clever. Look at this. Put it in my board paper for LDC. We did this rehearsal. How smart are we? 10 days later, we're in there on a Monday evening, go home. And off we went. And our business very, very quickly started to operate more efficiently. So
Really?
we
Okay.
realized that everybody was actually working. We learned a huge amount about the people that we work with. We learned about ourselves. I reckon it probably took me 2 weeks to work out how to work from home, and I did it in a fairly disciplined, clumsy way, which was I filled my calendar every day. So I had appointments on the hour or the half hour. So I just filled my diary. So I had meetings and calls, and that the discipline of that got me at my desk and got me through. And all of a sudden that starts to self-fulfill. So instead of breakfast in town or lunch in town or dinner in town and a couple of meetings in the morning, a couple in the afternoon, float about the office, chat to people, all of a sudden you're a bit more disciplined about the stuff that you're doing. So I managed to sort out, I worked out that actually this is reasonably efficient. It's not what I would like to do for the rest of my days, but I can see how it would get done. And if you look at what we achieved as a business last year, when I reflect on it, I'm not sure we'd have managed to get all of those things done if lockdown hadn't happened, if we hadn't been in a situation where you're looking to fill your days, you're looking to give yourself stuff to do, so you end up doing more. I think we ended up doing more last year than we would have done. Our staff generally reacted well. We very quickly realised that some of us were much more fortunate than others in terms of the setup that we had. So I've got 3 Mac screens here in a nice echoey office upstairs in my house that nobody disturbs me. It's quiet. There's 2 outside walls. So I'm very, very, and interestingly, we did a town hall Tuesday afternoon. So we did weekly town halls for the first 13 weeks. Every Tuesday afternoon, 45 minutes with all the staff. And I started talking about working from home, and I've always been very open with the staff about the reason we don't work from home is I was very straight with them about this and why we drove things the way that we drove it. We get to the end of the town hall, and I've said, I'm quite enjoying it, and it's okay, and I know it's difficult, but it feels as if we're learning from it. And one of our pre-sales consultant, a guy called Rich Crowther, came on. Any questions at the end, and Rich came on and said, look, Matt, I don't want to have a go at you or anything, and you've said we can say anything on these things. He said, but please bear in mind that not everybody's as fortunate as you are. And that was a really, it was like, do you know what? And it felt good that he felt comfortable with saying what he was saying on that call, but it made us think about, and we went back and checked with all of the staff, do you have everything you need? Is there anything we can do to help? So we bought 40 office chairs that got delivered to the staff's houses. We bought desks for people. We ended up working out, because you couldn't get desks, it was easier for the staff to buy the desks than us to pay for them. So they ordered what they wanted. We got monitors sent to the houses. We had conversations about broadband and stuff like that, and realised that most of the staff figured they were okay on that. But even, and we sent notes that if you want a piece of furniture, if you want this, if there's anything we can do to help, please ask. I'm not promising you will say yes, but nobody's going to fall out with you about asking a question. And even through that, I was trying to do regular video calls across the organisation and just talk to people and trying to encourage, not so much that I thought that getting to speak to me would make any difference to most people's days, but more to encourage other people. Just go and speak to somebody you don't normally speak to. You don't know what's going on. None of us know. And even through all of that, there was the odd call I did where I spoke to somebody. I spoke to one of the people that works in the operations side of our business, who was working and was sat on a double bed. I said, why are you in there? Or this is where I always work. I said, well, you work all day. We've said we'll do this and that. Well, I didn't like to ask. I'm only part-time. I said, look, that's not how it works here. Whatever we can do to support that. And we did a number of surveys through the first 3 or 4 months, asking people how they were feeling, how they were coping, and we asking about, how are you feeling about the whole working from home, being forced to work from home situation, you know? And one end of the spectrum, the answer was, I love it and I never want to see the office about again. And the other end was, I hate it and I can't wait to go back to the office. And, you know, give us a slider. And we were always at the sort of 80% end of this, we like this. And we started to look at that. And when you read stuff in the press at the time, it came across that we were skewed at the one end of the spectrum. Everybody was on that side, but not as far across as we felt we were. And we sort of did a bit of work to try and understand why we were at that end of the spectrum, and started asking staff, what's your average commute? You know, how much do you spend on getting to work every day? And we realised that, you know, at the time we were about 90 people. Our average commute across the business was an hour each way every day.
It's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot.
It's a lot. Well, 2 hours, 5 days a week, 10 hours, 90 staff, 900 man hours commuting every week. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
And you know, we had a lot of, well, it's great to see my kids in the morning. I never have breakfast with my children because I have to be on the 6 o'clock train or I don't get a seat. And we asked the question, if you could choose, you know, which would you choose? And most people chose to work from home. Said they would get to choose from work from home. So we ended up saying that we were going to become a work from home first business.
Really?
So,
okay.
You know, yeah, and we changed all of the staff's employment contracts to give them their home address as their work address, unless they didn't want that. And then, you know, nobody was forced to do anything. This is optional. It's your decision. And whichever decision you make, we will support you. But please do understand that there are certain offices that we won't reopen. You know, we won't be, you know, we had 2 offices in the Midlands. We're only going to have 1. We're not going to force you to go to work every day. So we went down that route. Again, it's been fairly, if not very positively received. And it's interesting when I talk to other chief execs and other people involved in running private equity-backed businesses, how I think we went further than most did in terms of making that. Now, the challenge we've got now is what does the future look like? And how do we take people on a journey that they want to go on? And how do we not end up in a situation where we look back on last year and say, gosh, I wish we hadn't done that. Because, you know, and at the time when we made the decision, I talking to the rest of the board and the staff and the senior team and the employees in general, and, you know, the thing you need to remember is we're all making this up as we go along. None of us have ever had to deal with anything like this. So we're going to make decisions, we're going to do stuff. Some of it will be wrong and we'll have to change it. But we're not going to regret what we did and wish we hadn't done that. We might change the decision. So the very short answer to the original question was, I don't know. I don't know where we're going to end up. My gut says we'll end up with people working from home some of the time and working from the office part of the time. I think offices will look different and they'll feel different. If I you know, we were looking at Berry House, so we have an office 50 metres from the Gherkin in the city, and it's all white desks, black chairs, all in rows, and it's as many desks as you can get into the space. You know, it's, you know, what's the maximum number of desks we can have in there? Right, let's buy the desks that fit in that space.
Yeah, and
everybody sits there, and it doesn't feel like we'll ever end up with people sitting at those desks in the way that they did. Although, you know, I don't know. So, you know, we will try and work with everybody we work with to allow them to operate the way and work the way that they want to work.
What would you say then, Matt, is, you know, I know you sort of said you don't know, but you must have a gut feeling yourself of what you could do. What would you feeling is your prediction for sort of demand for the services you're offering and also your own company for the next sort of 6 to 12 months? Where do you see it going?
So I think demand will increase for the services that we provide, because I think employers and employees are going to demand more flexibility.
Yeah.
I think that you're going to, and there is a win in creating an office environment, So where our heads at the moment, and this, it's changed. The decision, our thinking's changed a couple of times. Where our heads at the moment is that we end up with a small number of office locations around the country that people. I've got this idea in my head that if you got to bring your family to the office, you'd be proud to bring them there and show it off. So if we could create offices that felt like that you wanted to go and spend time, you didn't feel you had to go there, and you would go there, you're more likely to go there for a specific reason than just because you're expected to be there every morning. That feels like where we'll end up. And I think if you look at the sort of businesses that tend to be customers of Babble's, they tend to be 50 to 500 employee organizations. They tend to be doing something interesting, is the way that we talk. So there's some sort of transformation either going on inside the business or in the industry that they operate in. There's a disruption. They're either a disruptor or they're being disrupted. They're growing either through acquisition or organically. There's a skew towards external investee type businesses in our customer base. And it feels like those sorts of organizations are thinking about things the same way, but trying to answer all of those questions when you think about all of the different stakeholders that you're having to deal with, your investors, customers, employees, and I think I think there's been a fairly big dynamic change in the dynamic in that the families of your employees become stakeholders in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because, I'm very fortunate. My kids are 18 and 20. One of them's at university. One of them's doing their A levels. We've had to do no homeschooling, so that's fantastic. We've been very lucky in that regard. But I've got, I speak to quite a lot of people where homeschooling's really, really hard. It's really difficult. But there isn't anybody who's saying that, or I haven't spoken to anybody that's saying, I wish I'd never had to do it. Because the value that's added to families and relationships, I think is likely to be one of the positive things that comes out of this.
Yeah, so you've obviously had some good feedback from your staff around, whether they've obviously adapted very well to working at home and whether they're coming back to the offices. What's the sort of the major lessons that you've learned over the last sort of 12 months about your firm Babble that you're going to now take forward with the feedback of the staff as well?
Communicate. There is better to deliver some information quickly than deliver complete information slowly. So if I think about, the old nature abhors a vacuum. So it's, if you're not talking to us, Matt, that means that there's something going on that you don't want to tell us.
Right.
So the win we got early on our weekly town halls, it was town hall number 1, town hall number 2, and we were sort of counting the weeks away. And as I say, it got to 13, and it didn't feel like we needed to do them weekly anymore. The business had stabilized. It felt like everything was going to be okay. We've done 5-6 acquisitions and a secondary management buyout backed by Graphic Capital in lockdown.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, man. I thought it was only sort of 3, but how many acquisitions have you done in the last year?
So we've done 6 in total since January last year.
That's just crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Most people are like keeping the lights on, and then you're doing 6 acquisitions.
Well, and I said earlier on that I think there's a whole pile of stuff that we've managed to get done because we've been sat at our desks working, and we've been really lucky. You know, I work for a chief exec. My boss for a long time at Stepstone was a guy called Colin Tennick, and Colin would always say to me, take luck and timing over any other thing that you've got, Matt. You know, you the right place, good things happen. And we've been incredibly fortunate in, you know, I talked last year about we've been at the fortunate end of the spectrum, where from a business perspective, we're a recurring revenue business that's selling something that people have. There's been increased demand in what we deliver and what we sell, and we're good at it as well. So, you know, lucky tech, all of the right place stuff, and we were on a journey to get something done in 2020 that, you know, the interest in the space and investment in technology businesses increased through 2020 as well. So and all of those opportunities to present themselves, and I think you know, we also worked with two investors who believe that there's always opportunity out there for good businesses, and there's always opportunity to do stuff. So, you know, we continued to acquire, we continued to look to grow the business and drive success through that. So, you know, the position we were in allowed us to do a whole pile of other stuff. But I think the fact that you end up being very focused. So this idea that you know, it's really, really difficult to be really good at one thing.
Yeah.
Trying to be really good at more than one thing it's too difficult for me. You know, it's hard enough. And I think that, you know, having limitations around what you can actually do and how you can spend your time from a work perspective probably lent itself to how much we actually got done last year.
What's your view, Matt, now on sort of hiring during COVID? Because obviously people were having to work from home and they're remote onboarding, but I was finding they didn't really get to know the culture. So for instance, if I come and work for you and I only see you over, yes, I can gauge what your mannerisms are like and some of your nuances from this video, but I can't really get to know you as my line manager or my CEO. How have you dealt with sort of get remote onboarding of staff, and has it worked? Because do they really understand the culture if they actually don't go into an office and see people?
So the honest answer is I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if they do. What I do know is that there's been no lack of effort on our part to try and talk about who we are and what we are. So we have our primary value in our business is family comes first, and family is about what you decide family is, not what I think family is. So if you think something's family, it's family. And if you need to be there rather than at work, you need to be there, and we will support you through all of that. So family always comes first. So we talk about that quite a lot, and we've reinforced that through the town halls and the communications around it. In terms of, you know, we talk about our you know, our last value is life's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're at work and it's not fun, you know, it's you need to talk to us. If we can't make it fun for you, if you don't, you know, you're probably not in the right place. And then, you know, we've got various things that sit between those values about doing the right thing, winning but not at any cost. You know, we're one team. You know, we don't blame each other. We don't give, and we talk about that sort of stuff a bit. Teams and Zoom and video engagement, and you know, has helped but you've got to put the effort. And we've done this thing in our business was that if you're on a Teams call, you need to turn your video on.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
You know, but people don't. It's fine. You know, I talked to my daughter about it. So my daughter's reading English at Nottingham University, and they're doing all this stuff on Teams. And she said nobody ever turns their video on. I said, well, turn your video on. She said, well, you know, people think I'm narcissistic. I said, look, turn your video on. I said, and the next week, somebody else will turn their video on. and the following week somebody else will, and all of a sudden you've led, and people realize actually this is a much more enjoyable experience if I get to see somebody and get to talk to you.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go into an office and put a screen up between the two of you to do a meeting, would you? And we've all had to learn about what's okay and deal with stuff. So the conversation we had earlier on about the feedback and the echo in this room, we've had to deal with that and fix it quickly. And much better to solve the problem and do what we're planning on doing, to say, well, this is too hard, we'll just try. And what would have happened before is I think we'd have done it a different way. So, for example, acquisitions that we do, as quickly as possible, I do one-to-ones with every single member of staff. So I'll do a 30-minute one of these, talk to you, tell me where you live, tell me about your family, talk to me about how you ended up doing the job you're doing. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Who's your line manager? Who hired you? Why did you take the job in the first place? What do you think about the acquisition? What do you want to know about me or about us? And you know, when you buy a business, so in the last 60 months, we've bought businesses that employ 10 people and businesses that employ 30 odd people.
Right.
And doing 10 of them you can do in a day. Doing 30 of them, you know, you're doing 2 days of 16, 30. And you can, it's very difficult to predict exactly when an acquisition is going to happen.
Yeah.
These things, as you do deals, they happen when they're ready. You know, I have this conversation with people that when we're sort of shaking hands on a deal and say, right, we're going to do this and we're going to go off and do the diligence process. I talk about, you know, let's have a target completion date, but let's be crystal clear. It's a target completion date, and we'll never get to the target, but we might get it done in the week after that.
Yeah.
So and communicate that up front. But the point about that is that when not knowing exactly which day makes it really difficult to clear your diary to do those calls. But as soon as we do the deal, the diary gets cleared. Anything that's in there comes out, because the first priority is making sure people understand that we care about them, we care about people, and we understand this is a really stressful situation for them. I've worked for a business that's been acquired. It creates a level of uncertainty in your head and in your heart that's really difficult to explain until it happens to you. So, you know, and we're very straight, this doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be great for everybody. But I tell you what, we'll talk to you, we'll communicate with you, we'll tell you what the plan is, and we'll make you part of the conversation. So I think some of the stuff that we had culturally before COVID and before lockdown, in terms of trying to do lots and lots of social stuff, and we did, you know, we had one of the staff doing curries on Team Week, so we all cooked curries together once a week. We did quizzes on a Friday, we did various other things, but you know, a lot of that stuff, it's really hard to keep people's enthusiasm for it week after week after week. Matt's doing his quizzes. It's really fun. It's really funny for him because he's standing up talking all the time. All the rest of us are trying to explain why we've not gone for dinner because the CEO is running his quiz. So, you know, it's and just trying to be straight with people, and you've got to. So in answer to go right back to my first line, I don't know. It feels like we've done a decent job. People come across and tell us we've just done an engagement survey with the staff. We brought a third party in to look at that, and our feedback from the staff is in, you know, if you were to score it on a 1 to 5, 5 being great and 1 being terrible, we've scored at the high end of 4.
Yeah.
So it feels like we've done a decent. I'm assuming we've done a decent job, and we try and do those things independently. We try and learn from them and communicate back to people. So, but I think what's going to be interesting is getting the balance right when you do want to bring people back together. So I'd really like to have a meeting. I'd like to have everybody in the room, and somebody says, well, I'm not comfortable with it at the moment. And where the balance is about that, you know, we're 150 people. it would be great to think that we could do a summer party. I think that's probably unrealistic. Could we do something at the end of the summer? Perhaps. But I think that, and I suspect we'll only know what the impact has been on the culture of the organisation in 18 months or 2 years.
Yeah, because I was going to say to you, and it's sort of my final question, really, Matt. Mental health and sort of well-being, and you've mentioned it already. Some of the stuff you've done has been really tested at the moment. And I'm hearing sort of records levels of individuals being signed off through work and stress. And in fact, I spoke to one chief executive who had a team of 10, and 50% of his team are signed off. 5 people are off at the same time. So some people are sort of struggling more than others. What have you done about mental health in Babble, and have you have you got any sort of tips you can share that what you've been doing for them?
So I'm not sure whether they're tips or not. So I'll tell you what we've been doing. And again, the honest answer to the question about whether it's had a positive impact or not is I don't know, because people don't tend to tell you. We've talked about it from very early on. We've told people it's really important. We've pointed them to various different places that they can get support through benefits that we provide to the employees, but also other places. But we've encouraged our staff to talk to each other and to make an effort, and to, if you're concerned about somebody, find somebody else to talk to about it. And there's the idea that you don't want to be telling tales. But if you were to think about, if it was one of your siblings or one of your children, or if it was your partner and one of their colleagues or one of their friends knew they were struggling, what would you want that person to do? Yeah. Would you want them to come and tell you? And we've put a decent amount of time and energy into to try and make that something that's okay to communicate on. And I've had 2 or 3 messages from people saying, I'm worried about this person. And we've gone and found somebody and that we think knows the person well enough to go and have a conversation with them and just check that they're okay. We've had some staff who've said very publicly that they're struggling, and we've talked to them. What else could we do to help? Is there anything that we can bring that might provide you? We've given people time off where they've needed time off. We gave the CEO of Citibank gave everybody a day off at the end of last summer, and I read it in the paper that it was I can't remember. It was a bank holiday, and I'm saying I don't know if I'm assuming the CEO of Citibank, sexist thinking. I'm assuming the CEO of Citibank is male. I'm pretty sure he is, but I may have that one wrong. But they gave everybody a day off.
Yeah.
And I read that in the paper and said, that's a great idea. So we got to the end of the summer and we gave everybody an extra Monday off in August. We just said, it's a free day, take it, go and spend time with your family. We were sort of out of lockdown. The weather was fantastic. And we said, look, just work with your line manager and everybody pick a Monday and have that Monday off, and it's on us. And I think that, and that cost us nothing.
Yeah.
But it created a huge amount of goodwill, and I don't think for giving people the day off. I think it gave them goodwill because we thought about it. And I go back to my comment earlier on about a rehearsal for lockdown. I stole that idea from somebody else. I stole that idea from the CEO. I thought that's a great idea. Yeah. It's a day. It's August. We're really quiet in August. Now, we have two periods of the year where all of our desks are really quiet. It's August and the Christmas and New Year holidays are quiet. So if you're going to give people time, that's when to do it. So I think that I said earlier, communication, openness, tell people what's going on, tell them what you're trying to do, and what your intentions are, and share that in writing with them as well. So we do our town halls and say, right, these are the 5 things that we're going to guide ourselves on over the next few months. And when any of those change, I'm going to tell you. But this is what I'm going to try and do.
Okay. And my last question for you, Matt, and it is a personal one. You mentioned earlier that you said you didn't, like working from home, and obviously you've had to endure that yourself for the last 12 months. Are you going to be one rushing back to the office, or are you going to sort of adapt to more of a hybrid style yourself?
Definitely a hybrid style. I think that so I was in the office yesterday in London for a meeting. It was funny, on Sunday, I was thinking, oh God, I've got to commute for an hour each way tomorrow, and it was great when I got there. It was fantastic to be back at work and back doing stuff. We were doing a strategy session around organizational efficiency in the operations side of the business. And I think it's really, well, the reason we decided to do it in a room was we wanted to do whiteboarding. And it's really hard to do whiteboarding when everybody's in different places.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the only way we can map this out properly is to do it this way. And I really I enjoyed being back in the office. I enjoyed being back in town. But it was really nice to know that today I didn't have to commute. And I think we've all got used to being around. So, what I realized was that I'd arranged to go into the office and I'd arranged for a plumber to come at the same time yesterday. And a plumber arriving when you're on a call is not a problem, because you just, I'll be back in 2 minutes, off you go, and come back. And I sort of spoke to Laura about it. I said, look, I'm really sorry to dump this on you, but the plumber's coming. He's coming to do this. Do you mind dealing with it? Because I'm going to be somewhere else. And it was fine, but your mindset changes, because a year ago, just over a year ago, I wouldn't have arranged for the plumber to come at 12 o'clock on a Monday, because I'd have known I'd have been in the office. So I suspect it will be a couple of days on the road, 1 day in the office and 2 days at home. That's what my gut's telling me.
Brilliant. Matt, you've been a great guest. Thanks so much for your time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.